free market should decide what the people can consume.
Ishuzoku Reviews is what we're covering today, also known as interspecies reviews, and despite the innocent title, much like another interspecies-based story, has quite a bit of plot.
Look at us. Hey, look at us.
Look at us. Huh? Who would have thought?
Not me.
It's time, boys. The Ishuzoku Reviewers anime is out, and I am pumped.
Hey, tone it down. We need to maintain a minimum level of impartiality here.
I'll impartial my foot up here anyway. I know. If I'm so hyped, why did I wait until the show's 3rd episode before covering this? Well, for once, it wasn't laziness.
I have the receipts.
100%, I've had my eye on this since the day it dropped and Twitter exploded in a wave of uncensored screen caps, which we will talk about, but I waited patiently. Patiently I waited, and I waited patiently some more. Because you know some anime like to pull a fast one on you and put all the good animation in the first episode to trick people into watching it. Nah, not this time. We waited 3 episodes before I even put eyes on this show. So how is it?
フェアリーのイメージ壊れる。
お前丸かじり。
エロのオーケストラ。おっぱいだ。すごい。おっぱいなんだよ。
It's beautiful. Ishuzoku Reviewers returns to the channel in anime form, and yet it feels like it was only yesterday when I covered the original manga. But for those who haven't seen that video, the best way to describe this series is a group of guys go bar hopping in a fantasy world, and after a weird argument, discover that they can leave reviews on the places they go, and people will read them, generating more than enough money to fund further bar hopping adventures with fun stories, comedic interactions, and some interesting lessons learned. Pretty simple premise. Now substitute the bars with Monster Girl brothels. It would not be a stretch to say I love every single aspect of this anime, even the intro, which wasn't even a factor I was considering right up until I saw it. Oh my god, it's like YMCA and Shimonetta fucked and had a baby. It's like this OP was made for me. Wait, I'm getting a transmission from my Discord. It appears that a mashup has already been posted to YouTube. I actually like this OP for more than just its music though. Despite the show just oozing sexuality out of every orifice, the intro really shows off just how much fun the characters have going from place to place. It might be weird of me to say, but I simply adore the small bits of animation of the characters just walking to their next destination and how each time they do it they have a different expression. That perfectly encapsulates the heart of this show. Honestly though, when I had first heard about this ongoing 4-volume manga series getting an anime adaptation, I thought there was no way it could live up to the manga.
Look at me being wrong.
The anime is actually more risky than the manga, something I immediately zeroed in on the second Crim's bulge was drawn in significantly more detail than it was in the manga. Crim's an angel, by the way. Angels in this world have both genitalia, reflecting how in the Christian faith, angels have no gender. Actually, the show very much goes out of its way to show her bulge in any behind shots, so Fuda lovers will be very home here. Crim's bulge aside, I was actually surprised by her voice as well. I assumed the anime was just going to use the standard trap formula of female design, female voice, male dick, but her voice done by Tomita Miyu does a good job at maintaining an androgynous tone. Our other 2 leads, Stunk and Zell, voiced by Majima Junji and Kobayashi Yusuke respectively, are almost exactly what I expected them to sound. Fun fact, Stunk is also the voice of Kaoru from the anime adaptation of Nanato Kaoru, or for a more mainstream character, Ayumu from Kore wa Zombie Desu Ka. And Zell has the voice of Senku! And while the footage speaks for itself, I do still want to note that the studio behind this is Passione, the studio behind High School DD Hero. So a lot of my animation worries were put to rest after learning that. Now for those who haven't seen the previous video, again go watch it, the story is initially kicked off by a single argument between our 2 protagonists, 500-year-old elves versus 50-year-old humans. A no-brainer for a sizable amount of the population, but this brings up what makes the entire premise so unique. The question isn't about obvious visible hotness. The story also asks some interesting questions about the internal logics of a fantasy world. Like, I understand Zell because for one I am a granny chick. Who put this slander in my script?
Slander is spoken.
In print, it's libel.
I understand Zell's reaction, as elves can sense mana in creatures, and as they get older, their mana kinda spoils, for lack of a better term. To us humans and our meager senses, an elf might be one of the most desirable creatures on the planet at any age, but to a more magical race, it's like having sex with a mummy. Though Zell does reference that the 500-year-old elf is older than even his mom. Wait, how old is Zell? And how old is his preferred squeeze? Zell's a fucking pet. But speaking of old ladies, one thing that I realized after about 2 episodes is that this series is body positive as fuck. And sure, there are elements of that in the manga as well, but the anime expands on a lot of the smaller chapters, seemingly taking only 1 or 2 and turning them into full-length episodes. This gives them plenty of time to take small stories like the obvious results of going to a fairy brothel and making the message of different sizes having different appeals much more upfront. Mitsune-san even shows up in future episodes instead of being a one-time gag. And still on the topic of age, I do really find it cute how the older elves try to avoid non-human clients that can see through their young facade.
うわ今日はよろしく
Well, after using that clip, it's about time to ask the real question. How are the reviews? And not the Anime News Network ones. This was something I was kinda worried about because in the manga, the final review scores are basically a chart with text. Sure, they are pretty good reads and contain some interesting and fun insight, but most of the jokes and fan service of the series come from the lead up to the reviews. So what did the anime do? They got creative. Now obviously every review has some level of fan service included, but while some reviews have the girls striking pin-up poses while the guys talk over them, others have creative interpretations of the characters making their final score, like them sitting in a game show booth while talking, or knocking down bowling pins. And then there's episode 3.
Eh?
I'm so glad I waited for episode 3 before making this, because my god, that episode is not over-the-top borderline fanservice, it's straight up cropped hentai. I'm pretty sure someplace somewhere deep underground lies an uncropped version of these scenes. And I'm only slightly joking because it's so extreme that in the regular airing of the show, the creators gave up censoring the scene and just smacked a black screen over it. I guess on that note, I should address the EA pre-order chart that is the censorship debacle, and without going into too much drama or unconfirmed rumors, there are 3 versions of the show. The standard version with so much censorship that it's censoring fully clothed women, what are they, American Airlines? And that's the version most if not all streaming services are playing sadly. The ATX version, which plays on a premium channel in Japan, and while still censored is significantly less so, with titties flowing free as God intended. Finally, there is the fully uncensored version, available only in Taiwan. I have no idea what's going on here. Back to the show itself. I just really love the whole series, and a part of that probably comes from the fact that I myself am trying to find footing as a reviewer of content I enjoy, namely fanservice-filled video games.
Where the video games?
And anime. I really felt something when Krim pointed out that she couldn't afford to go brothel hopping every day, only to receive her cut of the pay and realize that she's been sponsored by
Raid Shadow Legends.
I also felt something when they showed the group initially planning to review one thing, but suddenly getting swayed by a, bigger establishment.
あそこだな。
やだもう
Beyond the fan service, what also kept me interested is the logic of the world, because I know people will obsess with the show's abundance of sexiness, but really, what establishment would you go to in a fantasy world like this? Would you want to be with elves older than most ancient forest? Maybe cowgirls who, despite their looks, are pretty damn tough? Maybe something like a fire elemental if you want to test the burning point of human skin. Or if you want to be devious, try your hand at being the bad end of a heroine's story. Those last 2 haven't shown up yet, but they do actually get covered eventually, because 3 episodes in, and we've only made it halfway through the first book. Speaking of books, at the time of this video, the 3rd volume is only a few weeks away from release in North America, and while normally I have some apprehension of reading a manga while the anime is airing, or vice versa, The anime for Ishuzoku Reviewers expands on so much of the manga's content that I feel it's fair game to buy the manga ahead of the ongoing anime. And hey, due to royalties, the creator probably gets more from manga sales than a streaming service. Also, something I noticed about near the end of the OP, they hint at a character only introduced in the second volume, so it's good assumption that this will cover the first 3 volumes of the manga. Okay, let's put a bow on this. Ishuzoku Reviewers is just a wonderfully funny and sexy story, the best kind of story. It's not super dark and edgy with sex, blood, and violence. It's not sickeningly sweet with more couples therapy than banging. It's just fun. Everyone is laughing, making jokes, keeping everything lighthearted, and that's the kind of fanservice I like the most. And being so vast in its type of content that it covers, it even has stories themed around the very topics I said it wasn't about. There's a shop for everyone here, and Stunk and his crew are ready and willing to review each and every one of them. And in the spirit of the series, I think I should give this show a score for once. So, with all of my thoughts on the table, excellent show for lovers of fanservice with fun characters to explore the world, and despite not being any sort of deep, dramatic story meant to keep people on edge, I think there is something special to this that will keep it in the minds of those who enjoy it. But for me personally, I think it has the potential to be one of the best pure ecchi anime that I've ever had the blessing to watch. Leave your thoughts in the comment section, maybe check out my Patreon if you want to support these kind of reviews, and I'll see you guys next time. Mata ne.
今宵も絶景だ